Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Enough channel. In this video, we are looking at the round preview for round 21. I just had a complete mind blank there. uh, uh, you might not be able to see because of my rough head in the corner, but we're only a few hours away from kick-off tonight, the first game, Dragons against Tigers. Whether it's, the most exciting game or not, we'll see, but I guess it's another game of footy and another round of SuperCoach kicking off. So as usual, we'll kick off with the most popular trade options in and out this week. We'll go to the trade-ins first, and at the top of the list, I think it's pretty obvious. Nathan Cleary. So 13,000 trade-ins. He's one of the all-time SuperCoach guns. Playing the Bulldogs this week. It's pretty much a no-brainer if you're looking to play overall. If you're playing head-to-head, there's a little bit more nuance to it, but you can't begrudge people bringing him in. Second on the list, another SuperCoach gun, Latrell Mitchell. We always say, goal-kicking fullbacks offer some of the best potential for points, and Latrell is supreme amongst them. So, again, great option, particularly for head-to-head. Overall, head-to-head, we have talked about in previous videos that Souths they have their bye in round 26, which is the head-to-head finals for a lot of leagues. So just be mindful of that with him, or I guess any Souths player that you have in your team if you are playing head-to-head. Adam Fanua-Blake at number 3 seems to be the obvious trading target for Big Tino, who's out for a few weeks with suspension. So it does have the bye next week, so it does limit his impact during that time, but, a keeper till the end of the season, so there's no stress there bringing him in. Harry Grant, I guess a lot of these guys you'll notice, in fact, if you go all the way down to number 9, they're all guns. I think it's going to be a recurring theme. Harry Grant, yes, absolutely. Payne Haas is back. Number 1 averaging prop, get him in. Dave Fafita, obviously number 1 averaging second rower, get him in. Isaac Targo is interesting. So there's, been a bit of chat, and he's one that I've identified as a real sort of super pod option for the back end of the season, and clearly a few thousand people have also. Does play the Dogs this week, which is brilliant. A lot of people saying that, he won't be on the right-hand side, which is where Cleary's going to go. But, the left edge isn't completely useless there at Penrith, with Luai and trying to think of the second row, Scott Sorensen playing off outside of him, Taruva on the wing. And I guess if you look back 2 weeks ago to the Knights game, the Bulldogs got ripped up down their right edge, which is obviously Penrith's left-hand side. So, I think he's a really nice option, and, that real sort of point of difference that can get you some wins in the back end of the season. Reece Walsh, yep, again, gun fullback. I'd probably have him and Latrell as the top 2 options for the run home, just given their price and the like. I probably made a little bit of a blue bringing in Teddy last week when I could have brought in Reece Walsh, but I've sort of grown to be okay with that decision. Cam Munster, gun at the 5'8" position, bring him in, no fear. A couple of people talking about some niggling injuries, but he's played through them for a while now, and he's still averaging 70 something, so don't stress. And Tyrone Munros, I guess people trading him in thinking that he would get his 3rd game this week. He's not in the squad anywhere. Obviously, at bottom dollar, you could use him as a cash out option and, in case of emergency break glass type situation. But, I think you could just go and out enough if that's the strategy. Because even though he's got a massive break even and whatnot, being a winger and a young winger at that, he is prone to potential down game. And the trade outs. So again, I think some pretty obvious calls here at the top. So Big Tino suspended for 3 weeks. I talked about in the stock market video, whether you sell or hold is really based on your priorities. If you're overall selling 800 grand's too much to keep on the bench for 3 weeks. If you're head to head, I'd consider holding. He can be a really great point of difference in the head to head finals coming up. Mitchell Moses, I think a lot of people selling him for Cleary makes sense. Maybe some people him to Johnston I think also makes sense. Yeah, so that's a fine trade out if you go into one of those other gun options. Mulatalo, yep. So I think he's done his job for us. You know, go with a winger that has a slightly higher base, and then still has the attacking upside. And I think there is a couple options around that 500k mark that you can target. If you want to know who specifically, go back and have a look at the stock market video. I'll give myself a little pump up there. Jermaine Osako on the bye this week. The Dolphins maybe starting to fade. I know some people think they've got a decent run home, so he could be a point of difference, but I'm okay with selling, I think. There's just so many options that offer similar value, so you might as well, if you can get on a winner, why not? Valence Safari, he's done his job for us, made 200k in cash, covered the buys, that last buy in particular. Even got some bonus points out of him last week. So yeah, if you wanted to cash him out, you could. 200k could definitely upgrade someone else to a keeper to finish off your team. Teague Wilton, so I think, yep, injury, not quite sure how long he's out for, but with the knee, it's probably not going to be a 1 week sort of deal. So I think at 500k, there's some really nice options that you could sideways to. Or if you sort of, for example, sold a Tafare, you could bring in another keeper that you don't quite have. Will Kennedy, sort of similar boat, I think. There's just too many higher sort of floor options in the fullback position. Um, so yeah, I'd get rid of Kennedy. Nico Hines, this is probably the one trade in the top 10 I don't really agree with. I think some people are saying, well, the Sharks have really shown their hand. They're going to struggle. They've got a tough draw in the back end of the season. They're not doing well against top 8 sides, and they've got a few of them. But I think regardless of that, Nico Hines is pretty well sort of match-up proof in that sense. The guy, he's not going to bang out hundreds every week. He is averaging 100, which is completely ridiculous. But, even if he reverts to 70 to 80, which is, what you could comfortably expect him to have, that's a pretty nice sort of lock option, particularly when you look at things like captaincy and that. And I guess, as well with guys like Tino out and the like, the argument that you can make money by trading him to Cleary or SJ, I don't think it really holds up. So probably out of the trade outs, he's the one I wouldn't be suggesting. Sifa Talakai, yeah, I think he's out. Maybe if he can sort of force his way back into the starting side, he could take that second row spot from, I guess, that was vacated by Teague Wilton. He has played second row previously, in which case he would be a nice pot, but I think the whole idea of the shake-up was to get him off for periods of the game because of his defensive liability. Or, it could just be a rocket. You never know. But I think good trade, get him out. There's plenty of other options at that price point. And Clint Gutherson, so an interesting one. Obviously, he's 900k for a reason. He has scored really well this season. He's always been a bit of a roller coaster, so I think maybe if you're trading to Latrell, I'd understand because I think Latrell is the top target. Um, but other than that, I can't really see anyone else you'd want to trade to. I don't think, even if you've got the money to go up to Drinkwater, I don't think his draw is that fantastic that he's worth over a mil. Um, Reese Walsh and that, and even Tedesco, I could see them all scoring around the same. Um, so yeah, if it's the only way you can make money to do other trades, then okay. But Yeah, after Hines, that's the next one I'd be a bit question. I think it's a bit questionable. So yeah, they're the trades for this week. The top captaincy choices go to the top 10%. Um, and so Nico Hines at the top of the list, and I guess given his ownership, kind of makes sense. Playing against Manly at home. So again, Manly's not a top eight team, particularly not with Tommy Turbo out of the picture. So I think he's a really solid captaincy option. Obviously, if you have Cleary, though, I think he is the number one option this week against the Dogs. Even if his hamstring's not 100%, he's not kicking goals, he'll probably still put on some tries and all the other stuff he usually does. So, yeah, I'd be backing him in as captain. And then after that, you can see it drops off. Gutho against Power. I mean, yeah, if you've got him, he's worth 900,000. They're the sort of players you do want to captain. He's got Drinkwater, same sort of thing. Joey Tarpany, I guess a solid captaincy option. I think the Warriors and Canberra game's pretty early in the week though, like second game of the round. So I can't really foresee who people would be VCing in the first game. So it seems like a bit of a set and forget captaincy type option, which might not be the worst strategy. Kalen Ponga, I guess given his form revival would be a popular option, but against Melbourne, I wouldn't have thought that the upside is there. Payne Haas, Dave Fifita, yeah, we know what they're capable of. Moses and Johnson around out of the top 10, so again, if you've got them in your halves, why not? In terms of the most popular vice captain, so Ponga is still there, and probably a lot of people like me haven't done their final changes to the team, so it might still be sitting there from last week. I guess he might prove to be matchup proof, but I think there's probably more upside options that we can go this week. Dave Fafita against the Roosters. I mean, the Roosters haven't been setting the world on fire, so that's not the worst shout in the world. Munster, yep, I think he's always in there in the conversation for VC just because of his upside. Yeah, so I guess Munster's not a bad option. Nico Hines, again, I don't know why you'd VC him in the last game. There's no real benefit to it, but maybe for whatever reason someone else is the captain. Like it must be a fallback option, I'd imagine. So just locking him in case the other player doesn't play. Joey Manu, is always an upside option, and the Gold Coast Titans. I don't think their defence has been that bad as it has been in the past, but I guess it's one of those things you see them and you're like, oh, it's a good matchup for VC. So perhaps Cody Walker, I think a similar conversation to Munster. Probably their opposition's a bit tougher though. The Broncos have been really good this year, so um, yeah, if you have both, I'd go Munster over Walker, but not everyone has both. Drinkwater, we talked about him as a valid captain option, so obviously a valid VC option too. Latrell, I think perfect sort of VC opportunity Friday night game, fairly early in the week, and always has that potential to go off. CNK and Sean Johnson, so I guess targeting that early Warriors fixture, and obviously CNK is that potential upside pick that you'd like to have as a VC, and obviously Sean Johnson as well can do the job if you've got him. Tedesco there next on the list. Harry Grant, Val Holmes, a few sort of decent options. Gutho, yep. Greg Marzu, that's getting a bit wild. That might be a hangover from last week. And Dream Buller, a few people plumping for that have kept him in the side. So why not? First game against the Dragons. Yeah, he could do a bit. And then after that, we're getting into the real pot options. So I guess what that means for my side this week. And so I guess this has been one of the tougher weeks making decisions because obviously I've got Tino. I'll bring in Cleary was always the sort of initial thought for this round. And then also, trying to get Latrell in the back line. And then I guess as I sort of, think things through, I started to think about the head to head. Because I guess, obviously, while I've talked very much about overall for the season, um, I guess I do have a bit of an interest in a little head to head cash league. So I'll give the boys a shout out. I don't usually talk about it on the channel, but the Ball Thurston League. So currently sitting third. I was struggling early in the season. It would be interesting to see the streak over the last sort of 12 rounds. I would have said I'm close to winning all 12, but have pushed myself up into third. So actually, I just realised you can't see the ladder from there. So if we have a look at the league ladder, so I'm sitting third. I've got a really nice points difference, which sort of is going to help when you see like it's pretty tight. There's, I guess, mathematically speaking, there's still 17 teams that can go into the eight. Only one of the lads has locked himself in. Um, all I need is Burnsy to drop a game, and I'll slot up into the top two, which would be pretty handy. But not banking on that. So I haven't done a deep dive into all the fixtures and stuff, just the position. Um, so yeah, so the way I look at it is as long as I can get a couple of wins over the next couple of weeks, and looking at the teams real quickly, I think I'm okay. So I think for me, I'm just going to hold on to Big Tino. Obviously, I've got Tarpany, I've got Tohu, I've got enough cover in the front row. I've still got Kalonga Matangi on the bench as well. So then it's all the action's going to happen here in the back line. And yeah, so I guess the targets in the back line are obviously clearing, Latrell, and as I said, I'm a real sort of bullish on Isaac Targo. So I wanted to Tango, can't say his name properly. So it's trying to fit three into two. And I guess again, looking at the head-to-head sort of situation, while over the next 2 weeks, Cleary is obviously going to outscore Stuart Johnson, particularly given Johnson's got the bye next week. If I can hold till the finals, I really like the head-to-head finals. That is, I really like Sean Johnson's run in those 4 weeks. Um, Cleary will obviously score against anyone. That's not an issue, but I think SJ could be a real nice point of difference. Um, so for that reason, I'm probably going to hold Johnson, and then bringing in Latrell and Targo. And as I sort of talked about with Latrell, the risk is that he's not going to be available for the head-to-head grand final in round 26. But the other thing with my cash league is it pays out for winner and runner-up. So I only need to qualify for the final to get some money. So I'm happy with that. It'll be a profit. Um, so for that reason, I was thinking about going with Reece Walsh because he'll play in the grand final, but he won't be available for the preliminary final. And I made the mistake last year of trying to hold trades for the head-to-head final. I was running low on trades. So I thought I won't, make any trades in the preliminary final week and hopefully I get through. And I lost. So, I could have made a couple of trades and guaranteed myself a few $100 in chasing the big prize. Um, but instead, I was trying to get greedy and win all or nothing and ended up getting nothing. So for that reason, I've landed on Latrell. So Azarko is going to go. He's not a bad pick by any stretch, but for me, he's the one that goes to bring in Latrell. And as I said, I want to bring in Isaac Tungo. So, a couple of options. CNK, I've been a massive fan of his all year. He's set and forget for the season. Greg Marzu is probably next on the safe list, playing outside of Kalen Ponga on that left edge. It's a pretty nice place to be. I'm not expecting him to go massive this week, but going forward, he'll be great. So it's come down to Manu or Ruben Garrick. And I guess for me, I'm thinking of Garrick out. Just, I think Manly's run is quite tricky into the run home. Obviously, Manu has a bit more money, but as you can sort of see across the rest of my squad, I don't really need the money at this point. It's not about the money. It's about the points, and I think Manu just offers that upside potential. Um, so it could be a flip of the coin, and I'm happy to be proven wrong because I like Ruben Garrick. I've always said he's a gun player, but it's just something about Targo. He's a bit of a ball hog, which we like. He plays in one of the best attacking teams in the league, which is fantastic. Um, all the signs point to, here's the guy that's going to be my point of difference for the run home. So if we make those trades, we've now got 3 trades left for the season. If we try to keep one in the back pocket to trade Mitchell out for the round 26, um, I think that might not be the worst move. And that still gives us two trades for an extended run of injuries and whatnot. But as you can see, really, if we look at the side, it got the 17 highlighted are pretty decent, in my opinion. Obviously, Tino, when he comes back, will be awesome. Matangi, he's a solid option. Tedesco is obviously going to be in the team this week. And even Jacob Kiraz, is a suitable replacement for any of these 4. So, like next week with CNK on bye, I'll happily play Jacob Kiraz. So, other than these 2 sort of guys, Blake Wilson, it'd be ideal if he wasn't playing, but it is what it is. Martin was brought in as a dedicated enough, and Harrison Edwards, he's harmless. I think if he is playing, he gets about 40 odd. It's fine. So, I guess you take those 4 out of the equation. I've got a strong squad of 21 players. And, if I was real desperate, I could cash out Edwards and Wilson and probably make one more player if I wanted to. But yeah, in terms of the team this week, I think because of the Penrith sort of factor, I think I'm going to rest the Dogs guys. So Matangi and Tedesco in. And then because I've brought him in, I think Latrell's VC makes sense, playing fairly early in the round against the Broncos, admittedly. But, he can do anything on any given week. And then just bank the captaincy with Nico Hines. I think, as I said, he might not get 100, but he'll get a decent captain score. Yeah, so then from there, I guess the forwards, who's playing latest. Just have a look through. Well, so I guess maybe I want to swap these 2 around. And then Nico is playing in the last game. So, and for Feeder, I suppose, but just leave it. He might become a VC option, maybe. So, just in case I do want to do a last minute switcheroo, Kyle Matangi's fine on the bench. So, yeah, so that's probably how the team's going to shape up this week. Particularly since, probably not going to look too much at it after recording the video. So, yeah, if you've got any comments or thoughts on the team, any last minute questions about your team, I'll do my best to answer them in time. Yes, especially if you're not interested in any of the players tonight. Um, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that sort of good stuff to let everyone else know how good it's going. And other than that, I'll catch you in the next one.